Her phone gallery was oddly empty. It was a Sunday morning like any other. Quiet, almost painfully so. I was nursing my second cup of coffee, watching condensation curl up the side of the mug, when I reached across the kitchen counter to grab my wife's phone. Not to snoop. At least, that's what I told myself. I wanted to airdrop her some pictures from last night's dinner. The kids had been laughing so hard over nothing that I captured a few good ones, the kind that freeze time in a warm, glowing frame. But when I opened her gallery to drop them in, nothing. I blinked, then tapped back, then forward again. Recent photos, gone. Favorites, empty. Albums, a barren list. A faint unease slithered into my gut. She was always taking pictures. Of the kids. Of sunsets. Of our dog balancing ridiculous things on his nose. She lived for her camera roll, curated it like a digital scrapbook. And now it was wiped clean. Did you delete your photos? I asked without raising my voice. Across the kitchen, Lauren stood at the sink, towel in hand, drying a plate slowly, deliberately. She didn't turn around. I needed space. My phone's been glitchy lately. I nodded, still staring at the screen, as if willing the missing pictures to return. All of them. Yeah, all the junk. You know how much I hoard pictures. It was overdue. That made sense. Or maybe it didn't. It was the way she said it. Too calm, too final. Like she'd practiced the answer. I didn't push. I handed the phone back. She took it with a small smile, no eye contact. That night, I couldn't sleep. Lauren lay beside me, one leg tangled in the sheets, her breathing slow, steady. The ceiling fan whirred above like a lazy metronome. My thoughts raced. She'd always been a little chaotic with her phone, notifications always piling up, screenshots she never deleted. But never once in our 8 years of marriage had she just erased everything. And if she had, why wasn't she even slightly frustrated about it? The next day, while she was out with her sister, I took my chance. Her phone's passcode hadn't changed. That gave me a strange, fleeting hope that I was wrong to worry. That whatever itch had burrowed into my brain would fade as quickly as it came. But the emptiness was still there. Like her phone had been scrubbed. No photos. No texts before last week. Barely any call history. Even the Notes app was empty. That's when I remembered something. A conversation with a friend a year ago. He'd found out his girlfriend had been cheating through something called a photo recovery app. It worked even after deletions, as long as the phone hadn't been factory reset. I downloaded one. It took a while to process. My stomach churned as the app spun through its digital archaeology, digging through caches and fragments. Then the results loaded. Hundreds of photos. Mostly mundane. Screenshots of memes, pictures of recipes, blurry photos of our dog. But nestled in the middle were others. The kind that turned the room ice cold. I tapped the first one. A dimly lit hotel room. Unfamiliar sheets. Her face half hidden behind a wine glass, but unmistakably her. Lauren. Sitting on the edge of a bed, smiling at the camera. The timestamp was from 2 months ago. A Tuesday. She had told me she was out with a client late that night. Next photo. Her feet up on a dashboard. Passenger side. A man's hand rested gently on her knee. I zoomed in. A braided leather bracelet on his wrist, the kind I'd never wear. Third photo. Her face. Laughing. Giddy. A full smile I hadn't seen in years. Fourth. Her in lingerie I didn't recognize, posing in a mirror. The kind of photo you send to someone while waiting in a hotel room. There was no trace of the person she used to be in those pictures, no trace of me in her expression. The room tilted slightly. I closed the app, then reopened it, like it might be some trick, some mistake. But the images were there. She hadn't just deleted photos, she deleted a whole version of herself, a side of her life she never meant me to see. I sat frozen, her phone still warm in my hand. The quiet of the house suddenly felt hostile. I thought about the last few months, how often she'd pulled away, how frequently she stayed late for meetings, how she was always just a little too eager to get out of the house. I thought about the long silences at dinner, the absent-minded smiles, the times she'd touch her phone in the middle of the night, face turned away from me. It wasn't just the photos that broke me. It was the clarity, the raw, unedited truth laid bare by those images. A truth she hadn't even given me the dignity of denying, just quietly erased, hoping I'd never look. That night, I couldn't look at her the same. She came home smiling, holding takeout from our favorite Thai place, chatting about her sister's engagement. I nodded, laughed at the right moments, even poured her wine. Inside, I was watching everything. Her gestures, her tone, how her eyes never quite settled on mine. And I was already planning. I needed to know more. Who he was, how long it had gone on, if anyone else knew. I needed to map the betrayal down to the minute. But I wouldn't confront her. Not yet. I was calm now. Dead calm. I knew what I had to do. She went to bed early, said she was tired. I waited until her breathing evened out. Then I slipped quietly into the garage, opened the lockbox in the cabinet behind the workbench, and pulled out my old DSLR camera. It had a motion-sensitive lens and a long-range zoom. I tested it. Still worked perfectly. Next, I pulled out the spare iPhone from the junk drawer, one I'd used for a freelance project a year ago. I installed the same recovery app and a monitoring program, synced it quietly to her iCloud backup. Then I opened my laptop, made a new file, a folder titled simply, Lauren, Truth. The first photo I copied over was her smiling in that hotel room. By morning, I had a plan. I'd set up surveillance. I'd track her movements. I'd watch her without her ever knowing. If she wanted to live a double life, I would be her silent shadow. I had no idea where this would lead. But one thing was certain. I would know everything. Every message. Every location. Every lie. And when I was ready, I would make her world unravel exactly the way she unraveled mine. I didn't sleep that night. I laid there next to her, eyes open, tracing the shadows on the ceiling as they shifted with the headlights rolling past our window. She breathed softly beside me, the rhythm of someone completely unaware they're sleeping next to someone who no longer believes in them. By morning, I had already placed the camera, perched behind a loose vent cover in the living room, angled toward the couch she often curled up on with her phone. A second device went in our bedroom, facing the mirror. I told myself I wasn't doing this out of revenge, not yet. It was about data, confirmation, clarity. When Lauren left for work, I made copies of the images I'd recovered. I put them on a password-protected flash drive, locked it in my filing cabinet at the office, then emailed a second copy to a dummy account I'd created that morning. I wasn't going to be careless. If she tried to twist this around later, I'd have irrefutable proof. For the next few days, I watched. At first, nothing seemed out of place. She kissed me goodbye like she always did, asked if I wanted her to pick up groceries, made small talk over dinner. It was chilling, really, how easily she wore the mask. But at night, when she thought I was asleep, she'd open that second phone. That was the part one hadn't noticed before. She didn't use it when she was alone. Only in bed, late, when the lights were low. The moment I started snoring, fake or otherwise, she would carefully slide it out of her sock drawer. It was tucked behind an old scarf she hadn't worn since our last trip to Oregon. I caught it on the living room camera first. She was curled up with her back to me, phone dimmed. I watched the reflection in the glass of our TV, a ghost of her fingers moving in rapid strokes. The next day, I waited for her to leave, then retrieved the phone again from the sock drawer. She hadn't even thought to secure it. Just a simple 4-digit code. I guessed it on the second try. Our son's birthday. That stung. Inside the Messages app was an unbroken stream of blue and gray bubbles. The most recent name, J. No surname, just the letter. But it was enough. Miss you already. Did you sleep okay last night? Wish I could be next to you. Some messages were more graphic, others more emotional. But none of them, not a single one, referenced me. It was as if I didn't exist. And then I saw it, the photo that changed everything. Her, in the passenger seat of someone's car, wearing that same beige sweater she wore last Friday when she claimed she was stuck late at the office. The timestamp matched. In the corner of the photo, in the rearview mirror, was part of a man's face. Sunglasses, strong jawline, maybe mid-40s. I took a screenshot and saved it. I ran a reverse image search on the number. Nothing. But the area code was local. That narrowed the radius. It was a strange sensation, being the detective of your own life. I started checking her Google Maps timeline, which I had synced to my dummy account. GPS pings, location stops. The patterns emerged fast. Thursdays, lunch breaks extended just a little too long. Fridays, happy hours that lasted past midnight. Every other Sunday, when she said she was volunteering at the shelter, I found pings near a condo building on 4th and Pine. I drove there. It was raining that Sunday. Light mist that clung to the windshield like it had nowhere better to be. I parked across the street from the building and waited, engine off, hands gripping the steering wheel. At 3:12 p.m., I saw her, hair tucked under a hood, Sunglasses even though there was no sun. She walked out alone, but with a kind of lightness in her step I hadn't seen in years. She crossed the street to her car, got in, and drove away. I didn't follow. I didn't need to. I knew enough. That night, she was extra affectionate. Made pasta from scratch, brought me a glass of wine without asking. Called me babe, like she used to back when we were still new. And I let her. I let her touch me. I kissed her. I said, I love you. Because I had to hold the illusion a little longer. But inside me, something was breaking loose. Not just hurt. Not just betrayal. Something sharper. Colder. Focused. The next morning, I called in sick to work. She was already gone. I opened her laptop, which she left on the dining table. Password. Our anniversary. She was predictable, if nothing else. Inside, I found email threads. Not to Jay. He was never mentioned by name. But to someone called admin at Kingsley Gallery. Com. I recognized the name. Lauren used to volunteer at that gallery on the weekends, long before the kids. She hadn't mentioned it in over a year. But now here were receipts. Rental invoices. Event coordination emails. Catering lists. And one email from just 2 weeks ago. Hi Lauren, just confirming you've booked the private room again for the 27th. I've made sure it's fully closed off this time. Enjoy the evening. My stomach twisted. That was the Friday I'd come home to an empty house and a cold dinner on the counter. That was the night she claimed she was stuck finalizing a client's campaign downtown. She was there. With him. I closed the laptop and leaned back in the chair. The house was quiet again. The kind of quiet that used to bring peace. Now it just echoed. By evening, I had called in a favor from an old college friend who worked in private security. Discreet surveillance was his specialty. I sent him the address of the Kingsley Gallery, along with the condo on 4th and Pine. I told him I wanted confirmation, dates, times, photos if possible. He didn't ask questions. He just said, you'll have it. I was no longer interested in doubt. I was building a case. That night, Lauren said she had to work late again. I nodded, kissed her cheek, and helped her find her keys. After she left, I poured a drink, sat on the couch, watched the footage from the living room camera. It showed her, the night before, curled up exactly like I thought she would be, texting on her second phone. Smiling. I paused the video and zoomed in. The smile wasn't one I recognized. Not the tired affection she gave me. It was lighter, freer, like she belonged to someone else now. I stared at the screen until the image burned into my vision. Tomorrow, I told myself. Tomorrow, I start phase 2. The morning after I set phase 2 in motion, the world looked different. Not in any poetic or metaphorical way. It was colder, quieter. Even the birds outside our bedroom window, which Lauren always insisted we keep open for the natural morning soundtrack, seemed to have abandoned their posts. I didn't wait for her to leave that day. I left first. She was still in the bathroom, hair wrapped in a towel, humming to herself as if she hadn't been living a double life. I stood in the doorway for a moment, unseen, just watching her. She caught my reflection in the mirror and smiled. Coffee's ready if you want some, she said, wiping steam from the glass with her palm. I nodded and left without a word. By 9:15, I was parked 2 blocks from the Kingsley Gallery, watching the entrance through binoculars like I was in a bad spy movie. My friend from college, Eli, had texted me late the night before. Got a match on your guy. Sending photos now. And there he was. Mid-40s. Athletic build. Short, salt and pepper hair. Confident in the kind of careless way men get when they've never had to earn attention. He walked with the ease of someone who assumed the world would shift to accommodate him. And Lauren had fallen for that. In the photo Eli had sent, the man had his hand at the small of her back as they entered a side door at the gallery. She was wearing that blue dress I'd bought her last Christmas, the one she said was too much and never wore in front of me. But now I knew where it had gone. His name, Eli said, was Julian Walker. He was an art dealer who consulted for Kingsley Gallery and ran events across town. Divorced. No kids. Owned a penthouse condo, 4th and Pine. Everything lined up. Eli even sent a list of his known routines. Gym at 6 a.m., gallery by 10 o'clock, out by 4 o'clock, back home with guests twice a week, sometimes more. He'd been seen with Lauren 3 times that month already. Each time, she told me she was working late. That afternoon, I went home early. The cameras had picked up Lauren on a call in the bedroom around noon. Her voice was low, but the software picked up most of it. I miss you too, she whispered. No, I can't tonight. Yeah, he's home. This weekend, though? Same place? MHM. I'll wear the red one. The red one. I checked her closet when she wasn't home. There was no red anything in sight. Not for me, anyway. That night, I sat with her at dinner. The kids were at my sister's for a sleepover, giving us the kind of quiet we used to crave. Lauren lit candles. She poured wine. She was playing the part perfectly, like a woman in love, or at least one trying to keep the illusion intact. She asked about my day. I answered with vague references to office politics. She laughed at the right spots, smiled when I touched her hand. If I hadn't known better, I would have thought this was just a slightly off marriage. One in need of a weekend getaway, not a full-blown forensic investigation. But I did know better. So I smiled back. I played my role. And later, when she leaned into me on the couch, pressing her head to my shoulder like she used to, I closed my eyes and pretended the betrayal wasn't tattooed behind my eyelids. I was saving my strength. Saturday arrived like a storm cloud. She woke up early, dressed quickly, said she was meeting her friend Candace for brunch, and then had a retreat at the gallery all afternoon. I kissed her on the forehead and handed her a coffee to go. She left smiling. By noon, Eli texted me from his perch across the street from the gallery. They're inside. Same entrance. I waited until 2:15. Then I went home and opened my laptop. The cloned phone had synced overnight. New texts between her and Julian. I locked the door this time, winky face. You better have. Bring wine. And your mouth. I closed the screen. Not because I couldn't stomach more, but because I didn't need anything else to justify what I was about to do. I dressed carefully. Charcoal, gray button-down. Dark jeans. Clean shoes. Nothing dramatic, just enough to feel composed. And then I drove. The gallery was quiet. A sign on the main door read, "Closed for private event." I parked in the lot behind the building and waited until no one was around. Then I used the spare access card Eli had secured. He knew someone on the maintenance staff, and a few extra $100 did the rest. The side door clicked open. Inside, the hallway was dim. Classical music hummed softly from somewhere deeper in. I moved slowly, silently. Each step on the polished floor was like a heartbeat. Then I heard it. Her laugh. Not the small, polite one she used around family. The full-throated, uninhibited one she used when she let herself forget the world. It echoed faintly through the corridor, followed by the clink of glass and the soft murmur of conversation. I turned the corner and saw them, through the gap in the heavy red curtains. A private room, just as the emails had described. A velvet couch, candles flickering on a low table. Julian sat with a glass of wine, his hand resting on Lauren's bare knee. She was wearing the red one. Her smile, God, that smile, was the same one I'd fallen in love with. The same one I'd chased through cities, across years, into the heart of our home. And now she gave it to him like it was his to keep. My breath caught. I didn't move. I didn't barge in or scream or take photos. I just watched. I absorbed. After a few minutes, I turned and walked out the way I came. Back home, I poured a drink and sat in the dark. I wasn't sad. Not anymore. I wasn't even angry. I was focused. I opened the folder on my computer labeled Lauren, Truth, and added a new one beside it. Julian. Inside, I began saving every photo, text, video clip, and voice recording. I added his work history, LinkedIn profile, mortgage documents I'd pulled from a public database, his ex-wife's contact information, a list of his current clients, the gallery's donation records. The next morning, I called a lawyer, and by Monday, I would start what I always did best, building a system. This one just happened to be for their destruction. Some people picture revenge as fire, explosive, loud, a spectacle that consumes everything in its path. But what I was building wasn't fire. It was frost. Slow. Creeping. Icy tendrils of truth working their way under the surface until things cracked under the pressure, one tiny fracture at a time. By Monday, the plan was no longer a fantasy. It had structure. Timelines. Targets. First, Julian. I began with his world. I researched his clients, the wealthy collectors and high society figures who relied on his curation to flaunt taste and class. I drafted an anonymous email, respectful, concise, brutal. It included one of the mirror selfies Lauren had sent him and a paragraph explaining, in neutral tone, that Julian had used the Kingsley Gallery's private spaces for intimate, off-the-books activities. A quiet concern for the gallery's reputation. a link to a Dropbox folder with time-stamped photos. I sent it to 5 of his clients. 1 hour later, I sent it to the gallery director. 3 hours after that, Julian's LinkedIn profile was deleted. I tracked his movements through Lauren's cloned phone. He hadn't told her yet. Maybe he thought it would blow over. Maybe he assumed the gallery would bury it. But they didn't. Eli texted me at noon. Julian's been called into the main office. Took a walk outside with the director. Didn't look happy. I smiled and went back to work. That night, Lauren was quiet. Distracted. She didn't touch her dinner. Her phone buzzed once. She glanced at it and turned it face down on the table. "Everything okay?" I asked, pretending to be concerned. She looked up, eyes distant. "Yeah, just stressed. Work's chaotic." I nodded. "If there's anything I can do." She gave a thin smile. "Thanks." And that was it. She went upstairs early, claiming she had a migraine. I gave her space. I let her sit with the discomfort of secrets that were slowly growing too large to manage. The next day, I dropped the real bomb. I called her mother. Lauren's parents and I had always had a warm relationship. They were old school, deeply family-oriented, and adored our kids. They'd been married 43 years and still held hands when they walked. When I spoke to her mother, I didn't say much. I asked if she had time to talk, said I needed advice. Then, without warning, I sent her one of the photos, the one of Lauren in that red dress, curled into Julian's side in the gallery's private lounge. There was a pause on the line, then a soft, trembling, "Who is that man?" "Not me," I said, "and not someone Lauren should be with." Her mother's voice cracked. I don't understand." I explained, briefly, carefully, that Lauren had been seeing someone, that it had been going on for months, that I'd confirmed everything and was preparing to take legal steps. I told her I wasn't trying to create chaos, only transparency. She had a right to know before the kids were caught in the fallout. The silence that followed was deeper than grief. It was the sound of a parent losing the illusion of who their child had been. "We'll talk to her," she said eventually. "Thank you for telling us." By Thursday, Lauren's world was tilting. She came home from work pale, tight-lipped. She didn't kiss me hello. She sat on the edge of the couch with her phone pressed to her chest like a shield. I didn't ask questions. I simply handed her the mail, kissed the top of her head, and told her I'd be upstairs working. That night, I watched the footage from the living room camera. She paced for nearly an hour. Called someone, probably Julian. Raised her voice once, then dropped it. She ended the call with a whisper I couldn't make out. The next morning, her second phone disappeared from its hiding spot. She was wiping tracks, but it was too late. Because Friday was the day I set the final trap. I arranged a small dinner party. Just family. Her parents. My sister and her husband. Lauren thought it was a spontaneous idea. To reconnect, I told her. To celebrate spring. She tried to get out of it. Claimed she had a deadline. I insisted. Her mother backed me up, even offered to help cook. The night arrived. Candles. Wine. My sister brought dessert. Lauren looked like she hadn't slept in days. Everyone played their parts, pretending the air wasn't thick with tension. And then I stood to give a toast. Tonight, I began, is about honesty, about truth, and about family. Lauren blinked, shifted in her seat. I continued. I've learned a lot these past few weeks. About love, about deception, about what happens when people think they're untouchable. Her eyes snapped to mine. I held her gaze. Sometimes we think we know someone. Sometimes we believe we're building a life with someone who sees us, who respects the vows we made. But then you find yourself looking through a lens, and what you see is someone else entirely. She stood up. What is this? Her mother turned to her, frowning. Lauren. I reached under the table and retrieved the laptop I prepared earlier. Let's not pretend anymore, I said, placing it in the center of the table. If I've learned anything, it's that the truth always finds a way out. I opened the screen. On it, a video. Silent, time-stamped footage from the gallery. Lauren and Julian. Laughing, kissing, embracing in a room lit by candles. The table went still. My sister gasped. Her husband looked away. Her father's mouth opened, but no words came. Lauren stared at the screen like she'd never seen her own face before. Please, she whispered. No, I said calmly. You don't get to please your way out of this. She turned to her mother. I can explain. No, her mother said, voice sharp. I don't want your explanation. I want to know why you thought this was okay. Lauren's hands trembled. She looked around, seeking an ally. Finding none. I made a mistake, she said. It wasn't supposed to go this far. Her father finally spoke, voice cold. It always goes that far when you lie. Lauren turned to me, desperate. We can fix this. Please, we can try. I'll end it. I already did. I stood slowly, collected the laptop, and said, it's not about fixing this. It's about what you broke. And then I left the room. Behind me, the house buzzed with hushed arguments and glass clinking. Her mother's voice rising, her father's disappointment sharp and cutting. I didn't look back. I went upstairs, locked the office door, and opened the final email draft waiting on my screen. Subject line, a matter of professional conduct. Recipient, Julian's current romantic interest. A woman I had found through his Instagram comments, his ex's younger sister, who he had apparently reconnected with. I attached a collection of photos. Let her see what exclusive really meant to him. Send. Click. Done. The final cracks were in place. And then my phone buzzed. It was Lauren. One message. Please come downstairs. I need to tell you something I should have told you a long time ago. I stared at the screen, and then I heard her footsteps on the stairs. I didn't answer her message right away. I watched the little gray dots pulse for a second, then vanish. No follow-up. Then the footsteps. Measured. Soft. She was climbing the stairs like she expected the house to collapse beneath her with each step. I sat still in the office chair, lit only by the dim glow of the screen in front of me. Her shadow passed beneath the crack of the door. She paused, maybe gathering the nerve, maybe listening to hear if I was pacing, fuming, breaking something inside. Then, a gentle knock. Please, she said, her voice muffled. I need to say it. After everything. I said nothing, but I unlocked the door. She stepped inside slowly, like it was sacred ground. Her face was raw, stripped of makeup, pride, armor. No tears. Those must have already come and gone. But she looked emptied out. Not broken. Just hollow. I'm not here to beg, she began. Not anymore. I leaned back. Good. She stood across from me, unsure where to place her hands. She eventually crossed her arms over her chest like she was cold, even though the room was warm. I want to be honest now, she said. All of it. You deserve that. I deserved it a year ago. Her lips tightened. A nod. Fair. She took a breath. It started last summer. I met Julian during that charity event at the gallery. He was charming, funny, flirted like it meant nothing. I was flattered. I thought it was harmless. I didn't speak. I didn't plan on anything happening. But then, we talked more. Texted. Met for coffee. It escalated, and I let it. I crossed the line and told myself I hadn't. But I had. I watched her try to hold eye contact. She couldn't. Her gaze dropped to the carpet. He made me feel like I mattered again. Not as a mom, or your wife, or someone managing bills and birthday parties. Just me. I let her words hang in the air. Let them sting the way they were meant to. I didn't stop when I should have, she continued. And I didn't tell you because I knew it would destroy us. But I thought if I ended it quietly, if I deleted everything, if I scrubbed my phone, it would go away. I could, I don't know, pretend it never happened. She laughed bitterly at her own cowardice. But it didn't go away. Because it never does, right? You bury something alive, it doesn't die. It grows teeth. I didn't say anything for a long moment. The silence stretched so taut between us, it buzzed. You never loved him, I said quietly. You loved how he made you feel. That's not the same. I know. And you loved me. I did, she said. I still do. But not in the way you deserve. That cut sharper than rage ever could. She stepped closer. You didn't deserve this. Any of it. You gave me everything. Even when I didn't earn it. Especially then. And the kids? I asked. Her face fell. They don't know. And I swear to God, they never saw anything. I never brought him around them. I never. You kept your betrayal clean, I said flatly. She winced. I deserve that. She reached into her pocket and pulled something out, her second phone. The one I'd already cloned, dissected, archived. I don't want secrets anymore, she said, placing it on the desk. I didn't touch it. It didn't matter now. Everything worth seeing had already been burned into my memory. I spoke to Julian, she said. It's over. He was using me, too. He had someone else the whole time. I was just one more room in his gallery. I finally looked at her, really looked. And in that moment, I didn't see the woman I married. I saw the version of her I didn't know existed. Not a stranger. but a version she'd kept hidden in some secret pocket of her soul. "What do you want from me?" I asked, voice low. She didn't hesitate. "Forgiveness," she said. "Not now? Maybe not ever." But I had to ask. I let the silence answer. She took that as her cue. She turned and walked toward the door, pausing just before stepping through. "I'll move out tomorrow," she said. "I won't fight you on anything. The house, the custody. You lead, I'll follow. Just, please be kind to the version of me that was good to you." Then she left. The door clicked shut with a finality I didn't expect to feel. The weeks that followed felt surreal. Papers filed. Lawyers met. Custody agreed upon. She kept to her word. No theatrics, no resistance. She rented a small apartment close to the school so the kids wouldn't feel displaced. They never knew what happened. I told them Mom and Dad still loved them, but sometimes adults grow apart. Lauren told them the same. Our lives aligned, finally. As for Julian, he vanished. Fired from the gallery, dropped by half his clients, name burned across town. I didn't need to ruin him further. He'd taken care of that himself. The house was quiet again. Not a peaceful quiet, but a vacuum. For a while, I resented every corner that used to echo with our laughter. I boxed up photos, paintings, little trinkets from trips that now felt like souvenirs from someone else's life. And then, slowly, I rebuilt. I reconnected with old friends. I took up hiking again. I started writing in a journal, something I hadn't done since college. Every week, I'd print out one photo from the past, one that hurt to look at, and burn it in the fireplace. A small ritual, a reminder that healing isn't neat or linear. It's just movement. Months later, I ran into her at the farmer's market. We were both alone. We exchanged smiles, tight and unsure. "Hey," she said. "Hey." She looked healthy, tired, but grounded. The storm had passed for both of us, leaving debris and open sky. "How are the kids?" she asked. "Good. They're asking when you'll teach them how to make those pumpkin muffins again." She smiled. "Tell them I'll bring the recipe next weekend." We stood there in silence for a few seconds too long. "Take care of yourself," she said finally. "You too." She walked away, and I stood there, not sad, not angry, just still. The past had become something behind glass, visible, reachable, but untouchable, something I could finally observe without falling apart. That night, I opened my gallery. It was full now, not of her, but of me, and the kids, and all the little things I'd refused to capture while I was busy watching her slip away. I found the last photo she ever took, one of me, asleep on the couch, arm over my eyes, peaceful. I stared at it for a long time. Then I deleted it. For real this time.